Buried alive. Mariupol theater bombing. Death toll soars to 300 after Putin's butchers blitzed women and kids cowering for safety. At least 300 people are said to have died in the Mariupol theater bombing after Vladimir Putin's savage troops blitzed women and kids cowering for safety. Up to 1,200 terrified people were sheltering in the drama theater in the southern port city in Ukraine when it was attacked by the Russians earlier this month, despite the word children being written outside the building. The historic building was being used as a safe haven from Russia's relentless shelling of the city, with meals being provided and people sleeping there overnight. After 10 desperate days of rescuing survivors from the rubble, Mariupol City Council has now confirmed at least 300 people are thought to have died in the horror bombing. A post on the City Council's Telegram channel said, "From eyewitnesses, information appears to show that about 300 people died in the Mariupol drama theater as a result of a bombardment by a Russian aircraft. There is no more drama. In its place, a new point of pain for Mariupol residents has appeared: ruins that became the last refuge for hundreds of innocent people. It's not clear whether rescuers have finished excavating the site." Satellite images showed the word children written in large white letters in Russian outside the front and back of the building, the Maxar space technology company said. The pilot of the Russian aircraft who ignored the warning signs was branded a monster by Ukraine. Local MP Sergei Taryuta said the theater had become a shelter in which the residents of the blockaded Mariupol sought respite from the continuous shelling. Pictures showed a pile of rubble with twisted metal and smoke rising from the ruins, while videos showed blood-soaked victims being rushed to hospital, and numerous bodies in the basement of the theater. Another video showed smoldering vehicles and debris strewn across what appeared to be the theater's car park. Mariupol is being flattened by a squadron of 25 Russian bombers flying sorties over the city every day, with 90% of all buildings damaged or again destroyed. Around 14,000 elite Russian troops surround the city, with many of the 400,000 residents trapped without power and running water, drinking from puddles to survive. Bodies litter the streets, while others have been buried in mass graves, because the ceaseless bombardment makes it impossible to hold funerals. Russian troops also reduced a school to rubble in the city, where around 400 civilians were sheltering when the building was hit by thermobaric TOS-1A rockets, which can melt human organs. Another airstrike hit a maternity hospital in the city. Ukraine hopes to open a safe corridor to evacuate civilians from Mariupol on Friday in private vehicles, Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said. Elsewhere, in the eastern city of Kharkiv, about half the population has fled and food and other essentials are dwindling for those who stay behind. Kharkiv has been under siege by Russian forces since the start of the invasion, with relentless shelling forcing people to sleep in metro stations and basements. And on the outskirts of the city of Dnipro, rescuers were searching for survivors among the debris on Friday after 2 Russian missiles hit a Ukrainian military unit, causing serious destruction. In the capital of Kyiv, ashes of the dead are piling up at the main crematorium because so many relatives have fled the city, leaving urns unclaimed. Meanwhile, Russia said it has wiped out the largest remaining military fuel storage site in Ukraine, hitting it with the Kalibr sea-based cruise missiles. On the evening of March 24, Kalibr high-precision sea-based cruise missiles attacked a fuel base in the village of Kalinivka near Kyiv, the Russian Defense Ministry said. Fierce resistance. It comes as Ukrainian troops pushed Russian forces out of Kyiv, and a sign the fierce resistance is crushing Putin's shambolic invasion. Ukraine is close to securing a major victory after managing to reoccupy towns and defensive positions up to 21 miles east of the capital. Putin's troops have been hit by plummeting morale after the quick victory promised by the tyrant has turned into a bloodbath in the face of Ukrainian resistance. British defense officials said there was now a realistic possibility that Ukrainian forces would also encircle the towns of Bucha and Irpin, which have been partially occupied by Russian forces. Ukraine is littered with the burnt-out wrecks of Russian tanks and armored vehicles, charred remains of downed aircraft, and the dead bodies of soldiers, many of who were teenage conscripts. As the fighting takes its toll on Russian troops, stories are beginning to emerge of anger and plummeting morale. Russia accidentally revealed it has lost 10,000 troops, when the figure was disclosed by a pro-Kremlin newspaper. But NATO has said that figure could be as high as 15,000, with the total losses including wounded, captured or missing up to 40,000. If the estimate is correct, then Russian losses in just under a month in Ukraine are now the same as they suffered during their 10-year war in Afghanistan, which ended in 1989. President Volodymyr Zelensky urged his country to keep up its military defense and not stop even for a minute. He used his nightly video address to rally Ukrainians to move toward peace, move forward. He said, "With every day of our defense, we are getting closer to the peace that we need so much. We can't stop even for a minute, for every minute determines our fate, our future, whether we will live." Zelensky said there is a real threat. Moscow will use chemical weapons in Ukraine, accusing Russia of having already used phosphorus bombs against civilians. The governor of the Lugansk region said phosphorus bombs were used in one village in eastern Ukraine, killing at least 4 people, including 2 children. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the military alliance is now deploying extra chemical and biological and nuclear defenses to reinforce its battle groups in Eastern Europe. It comes as Joe Biden said Putin has failed to divide the West with his war on Ukraine. After a NATO summit in Brussels, the US president said, "NATO has never been more united than it is today." Putin is getting exactly the opposite of what he intended to have as a consequence of going into Ukraine.